Yay, that's our stroller. Hi, welcome back. This is week 25 of the Pregnancy Desktop, inspired by Jason Concepcion's The NBA Desktop for the Ringer. And I'm your host and former two-time Olympian and now future soon-to-be mom of twins. And so, yeah, that's where we're at. And we are going to cover week 25 of this pregnancy journey this week. And as usual, we will open with a pun, except that I have an excellent co host to provide the pun today.
I'm not a co-host. I'm just providing a pun.
Okay.
Okay, so
Co-pun host.
yeah, but this is one I came up with last week, but so I kind of forget it now.
Oh, good. Do you want me to pretend I forgot the answer?
Sure. Okay. So, what do you call an elderly French relative who suddenly gets knocked up?
An expectant?
Yeah.
I didn't know if you wanted me to forget or remember. I remembered because it was so good. All right. Nice. So the size rundown. So for week 25, how big are the babies? They are each the size of one acorn squash, which you guessed, right? When we were trying to guess what the vegetables would be. Also spaghetti squash, similar. And a pawpaw. I have never eaten a pawpaw, I don't think. Have you?
Looks like a papaya.
Did look like a papaya. Cauliflower. There were a lot of cauliflowers, so pretty sure about this one. Also rutabaga. And, oh yeah, Napa, looking down here now, Napa cabbage. And yeah, I think maybe, oh, there's one more. So, and one kind of straggler behind the week website said ear of corn, but most of the websites said ear of corn for week 24, so they're 1 week behind. All right, so the pregnancy win or fail section. This week, it's a pregnancy win, and basically, I was just so impressed by what I was able to get secondhand on Kijiji and Facebook Marketplace. For example, I came home the other day with some nice shirts that I can wear that fit my growing, changing body for $3 each. And it also is kind of just neat seeing what's out there. And now I have an understanding from perusing like the marketplace in Kijiji. Fortunately, we live in a big enough city that there is quite a market for this stuff. But I can also anticipate what we might be able to sell our things for if we keep them in good condition. It feels good also to get things like we got our stroller, which we'll talk about more in a second, and we paid about 30% of what we would have paid for it new before taxes, and it still has plenty of life left in it. So we are getting a good quality thing for really cheap and not adding a lot of new plastic parts to the world. Okay, so this is week 25, and normally the third trimester starts at week 28, but I've decided that this is my third trimester because we're expecting twins and they will not make it to week 40. The longest we'll make it is week 38, and it's even, that's kind of the last stop, so it could be week 37, 6, 5. So yeah, so you do the math, and if you divide it into thirds roughly, that makes this the beginning of the third trimester for us. So that's kind of feels like a momentous occasion. Okay, so I mentioned stroller acquisition. So I spent a lot of time researching strollers, basically reading comparisons and thinking about what our priorities would be. So I'm not going to tell you what the best stroller is, but I'm going to tell you kind of where we landed based on what we needed. And what we needed was very specific to us because we're going to be traveling right away and then traveling for basically their first year of life. So travelability, like something that we could collapse, excuse me, something that we could fit into a compact car trunk. So if we're flying to France and we want to throw it in the trunk of a car, we need to be able to do that. But also, it needs to also be sturdy. So when we're traveling, we need to like be able to fold and unfold it many times, throw it. You know, it's going to get checked, be in checked luggage or gate checked. It needs to be sturdy. And then the other big priority for us was that it accepts 2 infant car seats. So we need a twin stroller that's adaptable, that you can click in the car seats into it as well as regular seats. And so that is a little bit hard to find. And I also wanted a running stroller. So it turns out you can't have all three. But what you can do is I tried to make like a Venn diagram. So here's like the ultimate travelable collapsible is something like, for example, the umbrella strollers. And on the other side, the ultimate kind of accepting 2 car seats, really, really easy, it clicks in really nice systems, were things called frame strollers. And we looked at a really nice, like, nice Italian stroller called the Peg Perego Duet, which is very similar, basically a frame stroller as well, but with seats. Anyway, these ones on this side are not super great and easy to like throw in a trunk. None of them fit in the back of a compact car trunk. And on this side, these ones did not accept car seats, infant car seats. So the in the middle solution for us was something that looks like this. There's basically, I landed on 2 types. One is made by a company called UPPAbaby, and one is made by a company called Baby Jogger. They both position the 2 car seats kind of front to back, which is a little different, but that saves space. And they're also very modular, so you can clip in and out the seats, and they come with lots of other options as well. And then ultimately choosing between these 2 brands, we went with the Baby Jogger City Select, but they're both great types. It's funny because I noticed them everywhere, both of those, now that I'm aware of them. So some things, like these were our criteria. That was collapsible, so the one we have is like a 1-step fold. Let it be narrow, so very easy to kind of like run through a narrow grocery store that's maybe not ADA compliant. So these ones have very narrow footprints, like in the order of 26 inches. And so you'll never worry about fitting through a door or a compact trunk. And you can also, you can clip into car seats or bassinets or seats or just one. So if you have one kid you need to take to the hospital, not both, you don't have to have the whole thing. Here's all the configurations that are permissible, all the permutations of our stroller. So you can see, and here's right here is the 2-car seat setup. But for example, we could have 2 regular seats and they face each other, or you could face them away from each other, whatever you like. It's pretty simple to clip them in and out. So the other nice things that mattered to us was that we be able to use it in the snow in Toronto. So it has to have big enough wheels, and this one does have bigger size back wheels. And I didn't like the air-filled wheels, which are supposed to be more comfortable of a ride for the kids, but the trade-off is then you might have to pump them, and I didn't want to deal with that. So the other thing is, because these 2 brands, and the one in particular that we got, is so popular, it's really easy to find it used. And we found a lot of high, like almost new ones that were selling at a high discount. And it means also there's a market for reselling. And also, you can choose different brands of car seat for this one, which makes it easier for us and also to resell to more people. So there are some drawbacks. I'll just go really quickly over this. The drawback, an obvious one, is when you have these seats positioned this way, it means you can't see whoever's in the second car seat. And so that's a trade-off. You have to like look around while you're pushing. You can't see them. You can't have twins sitting side by side. So they may fight over who gets what position when they're old enough to fight. And it's not a real running stroller. So I mentioned, for me, something that I really want to be able to do is run. So either we'll talk about that in a different week. However, maybe not. It's not a high priority to get it right away because I can't push them in a running stroller until they're at least 6 months old. It's just not good for them to be jostled at that speed. So I have some time to think about it and figure it out. Okay, so the next topic that I want to just touch on is to invite my partner to describe something he's started doing, which I think is really cool. And I'll let him describe it. And then maybe in future episodes, we can get an update on what he's done and learned. Do you want to come on and explain it?
Sure. So I'm doing like an interview project where a lot of my friends who have had kids, I've reached out to them and asked them if they would mind talking to me for an hour. And I have a list of questions that I've been developing kind of in chronological order that go through the process of having a kid and getting pregnant, the pre-birth time period, the birth, post-birth, growing up, and logistics, finances, all of that stuff. And so yeah, I've done maybe 6 so far. I'm hoping to do like maybe 15. But they've been great. I've learned a lot. I've reconnected with friends. Some of the people that I reached out to, I hadn't been in touch with for years, even though they're good friends. And some of them also live around the world. Like I've talked to people in Denmark and Oslo and Thailand and the States, Canada. So getting some different cultural vantage points, which has been good. And yeah, I talked to Sven today briefly, who and he was like a big fan of. He's like, "You got the right stroller." So, but yeah, but I'll give more of a report later once I finish the interviews.
Oh wow, I feel validated. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I would like you to come back and give us like some of the top tips in a way, and top surprises at some point or something like that. Okay, so as usual, we'll finish with some kind of things that your small child may say to you to hurt you in order to inoculate yourself against it. I thought this was kind of sweet. So this was a little slightly older kid, 10 years old. What's for supper? Mom, Elizabeth, says casserole, and 10-year-old says, is that when you put everything in a pot and hope for the best? It's kind of sweet. And then this one, a younger, I think a 4-year-old, telling his dad, once upon a time there was a big butt and it belonged to daddy, the end. And then so that was a great bedtime story. That's it. So we're wrapping up week 25 and we'll see you next week.